Greetings and welcome, everybody, to this week's episode of Poly Weekly News, happening here from Starin Base Camp at InfoComm 2022. We are honored to have Marla Suttenberg as our guest, as I've announced in the past. Before we get and start chatting with Marla, I wanted to give everybody a little bit of a breaking news update and talk a little bit about the industry just for a minute or so that everybody knows. This is one of Poly's Android video bars. This is our Studio X30. It's a great little device. And just about a week ago, Microsoft announced that Microsoft Direct Guest Join was now going to work. And in order for it to work, you'd have to be using one of the products that's certified to do that. And when they made that announcement, it was only the Poly products and one other small one. Since that announcement, I think one of our competitors rushed out a software update in the middle of the night, like last night, and they can do it as well. But it's an important point that I want to make for people that buy these bars, because when I was in the collaboration space as an end user, we would buy a bar or buy a device or video conferencing system, and if we ever wanted to change providers, we'd have to throw it out, and you'd have to do all those forklifts. We in fact had a competitor for a long time that only worked with Zoom. And they were claiming that that was a benefit, that they only worked with Zoom, that they could only do the Zoom calls. Well, we've always thought that working with just one player was not good. Then they came out and said, well, now they work with just Zoom and Teams, even though they're one of the products right now that can't do direct guest join. But okay, so now they do work with Zoom and Teams, which is great. But when you buy a Poly product, we're compatible with just about every service that's out there. For these Android bars, and I think that's a very important point, that if you want to get a better price from somebody else or get a better service from somebody else, we're not locking you in. You just reboot it into the service that you want, and it works with that service just fine. So again, Direct Guest Join now works, which means you can take a Zoom call from one of these bars set up as a I want to get the term right. It's MTROA, Microsoft Teams on Android. As soon as you get one of those, you can now do Zoom Direct Guest Join, and I think it's a wonderful thing for our industry. So much for the commercial, so much for the update. Now let me introduce my guest here, who's been a friend of mine since, oh my God, how long? 1980s, definitely.
When were you at MIU?
Yeah,
That's where we first met.
1980s, maybe. Yeah, maybe.
We were 12.
Early, yeah, exactly. Well, you were 12. I'm getting on there. This is Marla Suttenberg. Marla, tell everybody who you are and what you do.
My name is Marla Suttenberg. I have been in this industry since 1978, working for a variety of manufacturers, which I guess we'll get into more details. Currently, I've joined forces with another rep company by the name of Audio Associates, based in the Maryland, Mid-Atlantic area, and representing his products and some of my old Sapphire brands in just Metro New York. So I'm local. I'm not traveling to Buffalo and Bangor and Bensalem. And so I'm happy.
Bensalem's pretty. It's got
right.
the casino and everything. Move the microphone a little closer, dude. Just bend it over just a little bit so it's closer to your mouth. There you go. That's perfect. All right, so you said, it's interesting, you said 1978.
Yes.
I tracked my career as starting in 1978 as well. That's when I was doing my first internship at AT&T Corporate Television. So I track myself, my career. That's why I know I'm 4 decades. So if you're 4 decades, that's 80 years between the two of us. So that's a little interesting. How'd you get started in Navy? Well, tell the story about why this would be something that somebody, as pretty and smart as you would get yourselves involved with.
It was quite a circuitous happening. So I went to Clark University in Worcester, Massachusetts, which is where Sigmund Freud had presented his papers on psychoanalysis in 1905. And I figured I would take the summer off and then decide to go to graduate school. One of my close friend's father was the general manager of a car dealership in Bayside, New York, Queens. And his boss owned an audiovisual dealership in the city. And he was exhibiting at a show, and he asked if his employee's daughter and friend would like to work in his booth at the show. And that was the first and last time I was a booth babe, because he literally gave us little sashes that said Miss Reliance, which was the name of the dealership.
Is there a picture of that exists anywhere?
There is, but I don't know. I feel like I've seen it at some point. There was definitely no iPhones at the time.
All right, I'll have to share that if you ever get a copy of
Oh,
it.
yes. So when I was there, one of the manufacturers he represented was a film strip projector manufacturer out of Oconomowoc, Wisconsin. And he said, we really need to open up a New York sales office. Would you be interested? I'm like, sure, because it was kind of cool making money.
Still is.
I, and so I started in '78 selling film strip projectors. Let's see, after that
Wait, pause time for a second. I we're brethren, we 1978, and before that, a film strip projector, that was the thing that you would be listening to music or narration or something, and then it would go beep, and then you would have to know to change to the next slide. And then Kodak came out with one called the Caramate that did it all automatically inside in the box. I don't know if any of the viewers are old enough to have had a film strip projector in school. I am, but
they had cartridges that were synchronized that was automatic, so you didn't even have to do that.
Wow.
No, my second job is the one that involved the slide projectors.
Okay.
A company by the name of Audiovisual Laboratories, and again, this is way before large format video was invented, and so the company Audiovisual Laboratories made these dissolve control units that would synchronize multiple slide projectors to put on a big event. And actually, that's where I met my husband, Randy Klein. And I then, after I worked there, actually, he thought I would be a good salesperson because I was doing marketing, and he gave me the territory of Eastern Canada and the Northeast, so I figured maybe he didn't like me then. While I was working for AVL, the rep company, Milanese Associates, based in Philly, actually, his children, Anne-Marie and Mary Ellen Milanese, currently own Video Visions, which is an integration company in Philadelphia, which they do very well. So shameless plug. It's just I owe everything to their dad.
This is the show for that. There you go.
Milanese Associates also represented AMX, and so I was representing AMX for I don't even remember how long until one NAVA. National Audiovisual Association, for those of you who have no idea what that acronym is. We had flown back to Newark Airport, and the Feldstein family was on the plane. So George Feldstein said, out of the baggage claim, he's like, Marla, I just want to show you this. He had a cardboard box, ripped it open in the middle of the airport. He's like, this is our electroluminescent panel. AMX doesn't have it. And so I actually was charmed by him, and I ended up working for a rep company that was representing Crestron for about 13 years. And then
George was an amazing man, brilliant guy. I miss him very much. He was a great stalwart of the industry.
Unbelievably so, yep. So George is the one who said, you know what, Marla, you should start your own rep company, and I'm going to be your first product. I'm going to be your first manufacturer. So that was 21 years ago. And
very nice. Now, you knew George better than I knew George. Is it Feldstein, like he said it always was, or is it Feldstein, like we're being told to pronounce it today?
I think...
Not that matters to anybody else, but I'm curious.
Some members of the family say Feldstein, and some say Feldstein, but it's spelled the same.
Okay. No. It's not really an answer, but I hear you. I get it. Now, over the course of those 21 or so years, you and I have been to a number of trade shows together.
Yes.
Number of InfoComms. There have been a number of wonderful stories and things that happened. I remember I was your date for the Brian Setzer show in Atlanta when InfoComm was in Atlanta, because I had at the time I was an end user, and I had like 5 integration companies fighting over who was going to bring me there, and it's like I don't want to fight, So you and I sat in the balcony. I figured you would have gotten better seats, but anyway. But that was a funny story. George and your husband Randy had dummies made right? By was it Jay Johnston?
The,
At the
yeah,
time?
the ventriloquist.
The ventriloquist, and those dummies sat in George's office, I was told.
Yep.
For a long time, and you got Brian Setzer's guitar, and there have got to be a lot of other funny stories that you've come up with at some of the various shows you've been at. Anything come to top of mind?
Actually, many, many years ago, when even before those times, I think InfoComm was in Dallas, and we had a tented, I guess, was it called hospitality? But I really don't remember, but the sprinklers went off in the tent, and of course we were suspicious that our local Dallas-based competitor had made that happen, but I don't know if that's actually true. There was also a time when George was on a panel with other leading manufacturer
I remember that.
owners, and evidently there was a fly flying around, and he was like, swatting it away, and he's like, somebody's bugging me. So that was an example of George's great
Yes.
sense of humor and self-deprecating.
That was actually a funny story. Those took place at InfoComms of the past. It was a session called Manufacturers Forum.
Right.
And it happened about a month or two after it was revealed, without getting into too many of the dirty details, that there was one of Crestron's competitors listening in on emails and calls, and he was aware of that, and that came to light. And you had been intimately involved in that. So when you said, "Hey, I'm being bugged," the entire audience fell off of their chairs in terms of laughing. So that's, he didn't always seem to be the sharpest guy, but he was typically the sharpest guy in the room, whether he seemed to be or not.
He's brilliant.
So you and I met when I was working at NYU.
Yes.
I was running campus media services, and we were trying to do things that didn't exist yet in terms of automation. And that's when I think I got my first tour of the facilities that you were associated with, and looked at all the button panels and presses and things like that. And the funny thing, and this is a true story, I knew you for about, 4, 5, maybe 6 years, and I knew your husband for about the same time, and I had no idea the two of you were married. Until somebody said that to me, and I said, "Really? Really?"
That's what happens when you keep your maiden name. Nobody has a clue.
Well, you also both had and have strong professional personas.
Right.
You're not getting along on any of his glory, and he's not getting along on any of your glory. And that's now that's common. That wasn't all that common,
Right.
in the 1980s and 1990s. And I assume that's something that you did intentionally.
No doubt.
Okay. No comments about that one? You didn't have late night discussions about, no pillow talk about joint customers or anything?
We kept it separate, so I have a 32-year-old daughter, so as soon as we became parents, we decided that, home is home and work is work, and we really did try to keep it separate. And remember, I was just responsible for the northeast of the country, and Randy was responsible for the world, so we had different issues and concerns. And
it was still wonderful to hear that two people that I admired so much actually are together. It was like one of those, well, that's kind of nice. So my perspective and your perspective, going back decades, it's really a tough thing to say, but going back decades, there's been a lot of change in this industry. What do you think are the biggest changes? What is the other than how awesome the poly gear is and how it's all autumn? What do you see as like the trends of the biggest change over the last few years?
I think, when I first started, there were the integrators, or they weren't called integrators, they were called dealers, were mostly mom and pop companies. I think over the years there have been a lot of mergers, conglomerations, outside money coming into some of those places. I'm trying to be judicious in how I present this, but
we're walking over hot coals and eggshells through this entire piece, so don't worry about it. It's just let whatever you want out.
But what stays the same is the relationships at those dealerships, for example, or the consultants, because that hasn't changed, no matter who the ownership is or who the management is.
Yeah, and you know, it's interesting. This is probably my fourth trade show this year since the pandemic hopefully has waned and maybe disappeared. And it's all about relationships. It's all about seeing your customers and seeing your colleagues you might not have seen,
Yep.
competitors. I've been saying this on a number of webcasts, but it's true that, you know, we're doing a lot of hugging, not necessarily even of people that we like. We're hugging them because we like the ability that we can hug again.
Right.
It's and I said this on the podcast that actually took place in this room just before this one that Joe Way was doing. That bubble's going to pop. We're gonna get it out to maybe September, October for CEDIA, you know, one more show. And next year it's not gonna fly that people are, you know, oh, it's nice to see you. It's like, all right, we're fine, I saw you. What the heck's new at this point? There isn't a lot of new stuff at the show right now, and that's one of the things that's going on this year that I'm sure you see as well. It's part of it is supply chain, part of it is coming out of this pandemic, and as you say, the smaller player, very rare. Doesn't really exist nowadays. It's morphed, as we've been saying, to bigger companies, ones that are more focused on IT, combined with it. And I don't know if it's good or bad, but it is what it is. Have you changed the way you look at things because of that?
Not really, again, because I'm a relationship person, and so
The relationship stays the same.
yeah, that doesn't affect me who owns a company or what have you. And
So, what are you focused on at the show this year? What are you looking for that's new to you or different or that you're concentrating on?
well, so first I should probably rewind a little bit and say that I have actually joined forces with another rep agency based in Middle Atlantic, Audio Associates, and historically he had been, since the name Audio Associates, it's been more audio centric, but he also is representing some video products, some manufacturers that I used to represent from Sapphire. So right now at these shows, I'm paying attention to those manufacturers.
Are you keeping the name Sapphire?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's my moniker.
Just checking. So you're still staying with that brand, but you're now associated with this other brand as well.
Correct. My email is still marla@sapphiremarketing.com, but I am with Audio Associates.
Okay, good. All right, so we have to at least mention, even if we're going to dance around, you know, the what do they call it? The elephant in the room, the gorilla in the room, whatever. You know, you and your husband both have been such stalwarts of the industry, and I know there's been a recent change without getting into too many of the details. So let's leave Randy out of this because we're talking about you right now. But tell us why there was such a major change, or in your opinion, what has happened, or why did you change focus? What's your words behind that?
I think after 33 years of representing them, they wanted to go into a different direction as far as representation, and I, you know, good for the end. It was time for a change for both of us, actually. So it's all good.
Okay. If people want to find out more about what you're doing nowadays,
Yeah.
how would you ask them to? Where would you want them to go? Obviously, you said your email address, but is there any reference as to what Sapphire is doing or your new partnership?
I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. Twitter I haven't embraced as well as you have, although doesn't it automatically, if you post something on Facebook, it also goes to Twitter, or
It
is that
can.
Instagram and Twitter? I have a lot to learn still.
Social media is a hungry child. You'd have to keep feeding it.
But yeah, I try to promote the brands that I'm representing, and when something new comes out with them.
Are you
So-
interested in talking to other brands as well? You're trying to grow the portfolio?
Yeah, absolutely.
Any conversation? I'm not asking you to reveal anything, but any conversations like that at the show? Is that one of the reasons you're here, to talk to brands and companies?
I'm always interested in adding new brands. So
Okay. Well, then it's good that we're all getting back together again, because that's the way to do it. Anything that you wanted to say that I didn't get a chance to ask you?
I actually, again, I'm flattered that you thought that my legacy was important enough to talk to me.
Absolutely. Oh, we do have to talk about the collaboration today and tomorrow.
Yes.
That is an IMCCA publication with Emerald Publications as part of Commercial Integrator that I'm the editor of. I'm very pleased that they're asking me to do that. And you and your friend and ex-employee Laney are working on a column that recurs in that publication. So commercialintegrator.com. Look for Collaboration Today and Tomorrow. It's available digitally. It's available in print. And the column that you and Laney are working on is called
Honor Roll.
Honor Roll. And the point of Honor Roll, because I know this because I asked you to do it, but the point of Honor Roll is to honor people in our industry without the biases that we brought with us in the past.
Right.
So it's no longer under 30 or over 40 or old white men or anything like that. We've now got a category for. Do you remember the categories off the top of your head?
New to AV, under 30, which was a real challenge because, for example, Noah Kaplan from Leon, I thought he was under 30. He's like, Marla. Between 30 and 50, 50 and over, legacy, and diversity. Did I get all of those categories?
Yeah, I think that was right. And in every issue, you're going to highlight another person in each category.
Correct.
So we're no longer being ageist in any way. We're no longer being sexist. We're no longer ignoring diversity and inclusion. We're going to have that. And you've got some great people in that issue right now.
Yeah.
Take a look. It's the June issue of Commercial Integrator. So I did want to mention that.
Yeah,
That's
thank
cool.
you. That was fun.
Great. Well, as we record this, it is Thursday, and we're in Las Vegas. I got to remember this because it's kind of sometimes you forget with these trade shows. We got one more day of InfoComm, and then
Yep.
we're all heading home. You're back in the Northeast in the New York area. That's where people are going to be able to reach
Yep.
out to you.
Yep, absolutely.
Give everybody your email one more time.
Marla at sapphiremarketing.com. Sapphire is also my birthstone because I'm born in September, and that was not a real original name when George said start your own company, but it resonates. So
It's such a pleasure to have you with me.
Thank
It's such
you,
a pleasure
David.
to call you an industry friend, and I
Yes.
really appreciate you being here.
vice versa.
So for Marla, for everyone at Poly and Poly Weekly News, thanks very much for joining us, and we will see you next week.